Good evening, Bulls fans. This is Matt Gritzmacher. I'm joined by John McWhinney. I usually say, as always in this case, and I guess it's still true that I am Matt Gritzmacher. I'm joined by John McWhinney. This is the first show of the year, even though we started the Olympic rundown for the year last week. This is the first show of the year under our new composite channel, I guess we're calling it. We've renamed all the stuff that comes from the Bull Run team as Blue Bowl TV. That's the name of this channel, and everything will be in one place. So you can subscribe to this channel and get the Bulls and Beers football and basketball broadcasts. You'll be able to subscribe to this channel and get all our Olympic rundowns. And then all of these will also appear on a similarly named SoundCloud channel. We're going to do more work this year with audio and podcasts a couple times a week, including all the audio from these. So welcome to Blue Bowl TV. Blue Bowl or Blue Bowls, John?
Blue Bowl, I believe.
Just one bowl. Okay. Yeah, we got rid of Victoria S Bowl in like 2005, so it's just been Victor for a while. Anyway, this is the Olympic rundown. Names aside, it's still the same Olympic rundown. Last week, all we had to talk about was women's soccer, and maybe we previewed other teams. I honestly don't even remember. This weekend, men's soccer and volleyball kicked off. And we'll get to volleyball in a second. Women's soccer team, we'll get to them. And even though sometimes we like to save the exciting stuff for last, I feel like when someone sets a new school record, we have to start with that, John.
Yeah, I really think we do.
It was men's soccer. It was Russell Cicerone. He
yeah. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
So yeah, the men's soccer team opened their regular season against Damon, which, quite frankly, didn't pose nearly as much of a challenge as 2 out of their 3 exhibition matches.
You're giving Damon that much credit, huh?
Well, I'm giving Albany a little bit more. I'm saying Damon is lower than Rochester and Mercyhurst. Albany is slightly above Damon in terms of competition level.
Okay, I'm a little confused. I thought Damon was weaker than all 3 of the exhibitions.
Really? You thought they were weaker than Albany?
Yes. Albany's a Division I program. Like, I don't know. We played Damon.
And
I going into that game, John, I don't think I said it publicly anywhere. I was expecting 6 goals at a minimum against Damon. And we got 6. And then three more.
You nearly got that number from Cicerone himself.
Yeah.
He honestly probably should have had 6.
He should have had 6. I don't think that was a well-taken penalty. We keep not saying the facts. Russell Cicerone scored 5 goals in the season opener against Damon. It's a school record. 4 people in the past before the Division I area had ever scored 4 in a game. And the last hat trick happened from, I had his name and now it's gone. In 2008 was when the last hat trick happened. That's what he said. He also had an assist on a goal from Braden Scales, and he could have had another goal, but he had a penalty shot that was saved. There. Now we've said all the facts, and we can talk about whatever else we want to talk about. Go back, John, to whatever you were saying.
Yeah, Cicerone had... he really played lights out. I mean, honestly, and he had the hat trick that you mentioned. He had the hat trick within 11 minutes of scoring when he scored the first goal in the first half. Within 11 minutes of that, he had the hat trick. It was really, I think it was really to see just how much Russell could do in a single game.
Absolutely.
Damon doubled and triple teamed him, and there was just nothing they could do to stop him, short of actually like tackling him to the ground.
Which, to their credit, they did not do. I appreciate that they didn't do that. I agree with you that it felt like a game set up to pad some stats, to give Russell a chance to score some goals. If you'll remember, a couple years ago, Pat Flynn from Bowling Green was a big name that everyone was Googling and gagaing over. Well, part of the reason that he was a big name is because he scored 4 goals in Bowling Green's season opener against Division II Findlay. And we can play that game too. And I think that's what we did. And I'm honestly both glad that Russell got his 5 goals. I am happy for that. I think he deserves it. It gets him off to a good start. I like that he went from number 3 all-time at UB with 28 career goals into a tie at number 2 all-time at UB with 33 career goals in one game. That was really fun. He also moved from number 3 into sole possession, number 2 all-time in total points at UB. With that assist, plus the 5 goals, he tied the school record for points in a game with 11. It was a good day from Cicerone. I'm glad it happened. That said, I felt at the time, and I especially feel now after today's game against Canisius, John, that not all that much to learn from the Damon game, except that Ricard Lindquist has a great free kick.
Yeah,
and
I think
Ricard Lindquist set pieces. I'll try not to get too far ahead of myself now, but Ricard Lindquist set pieces.
Yeah, he was on a corner on Cicerone. I want to say it was Cicerone's second or third goal. Had a really nice corner kick, and
I
Cicerone.
wasn't even thinking about that, but yes, you are right.
And I believe he had 2. He had 3 assists.
He had 3 assists.
He had 3 assists and a goal. His goal was UB's 7th, which was on a 35-yard free kick. It was beautiful.
Yeah, it was so beautiful that we didn't even get it all on camera. That's a different conversation. It's been a long weekend. I'm kind of cranky and tired.
I managed to chat with Stu Riddle a little bit after the Damon game, and I mentioned Lindquist's goal. I mentioned that Cicerone scored 5, but Lindquist far and away had the prettiest goal out of the 9 that were scored, and Coach Riddle seemed to agree.
9 goals.
9 goals. I know. That's
too many. I know soccer needs to fight issues of being boring, but that's just too many goals.
For most of the night, the men's soccer team had outscored the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
Another conversation for another time. Anywho, I talked to Coach Riddle about Lindquist and kind of what his expectations are for him going forward now that he's started through all the exhibitions. He started the first 2 regular season games. And he brought up a good point that, when Russ and Braden Scales and Daniel Cramarosa and all those guys that are juniors and seniors now, when they came in, they were on a team basically full of freshmen and sophomores, and they kind of had to go through the growing pains, as a team to work to where they are now. Lindquist has the luxury of coming onto a team with established veteran guys, and it will really help him, 1, be more effective, and 2, help his development more by getting to play with these top tier, these veteran guys. And Coach Riddle really seemed optimistic for him going forward, which I thought was good, because that makes me look all that much better for saying Lindquist was a guy to watch in the offseason.
Yeah, when I was listening to that response that you gave, or that Riddle gave to you from your question, the guy that I was thinking of, John, was Abdul Al-Khalisi. Khalisi came in. He was a freshman in Cicerone's sophomore year. Came in, was very surprising and exciting in the exhibitions, and then just couldn't quite, make it happen in the regular season, and then he left after a year. And the way that Riddle was talking about, a freshman, a young guy having to grind through it, that's what I was thinking of, as a guy who, I don't want to say that Al-Khalisi failed, but he didn't stay with the team. He was not as productive after his first 2 games. And Lindquist gets the benefit, as Riddle pointed out, as you've pointed out, of not dealing with that. Moving on to today's game, the UB men did beat Canisius 1-0. It certainly didn't feel like they beat Canisius, but at the end of the game, they had more goals, 1 than Canisius did, 0. Joe Kuda made 5 saves in the shutout, and it really did not feel like only a 5-save shutout. Lindquist had the corner kick that turned into the winning goal. Came in, got a deflection. Russell Cicerone tried for a bicycle kick, kicked it like literally into a defender's shins. It was weird, and the ball bounced to Daniel Enstrom, who got the shot in the net. Possibly with the help of a handball. Canisius is super upset. They think he corralled down with his hand. The video, to me, maybe it looks more to me like it hit his hip and like his arm. Your arm just happens to be next to your hip sometimes, but it's hard to tell decisively. But UB got the goal there, and Lindqvist was on. In that goal, I think Cicerone got the lone assist, but Lindqvist delivered the corner. There's so much to say on this, and this is by no means the big defining point of the game, John. But one thing that I want to bring up with Lindqvist is that corner kick that became the winning goal was the first set piece all game where I felt UB actually weighted the delivery into the crowd of people and let something happen. Whereas I know you weren't able to watch the game at all. You just were following live stats. But free kick after free kick, corner kick after corner kick sailed over the crowd and was either corralled by the Canisius goalie or just kind of flew over and rolled away. And sometimes going over the crowd works. You station someone on the back door. Bonaventure's goal against the women on Thursday night, we'll talk about in about 30 minutes. Their kick went mostly over the crowd and came from a direction that UB wasn't expecting once it was redirected into the net. But in a game where UB, really that was the only way they were going to score a goal, it really felt like was off a set piece. I was surprised that it took them that long to find a well-weighted ball. And so Lindqvist was a big part of that, and I was glad to see that. Talking more broadly about the game, it's a win. UB's defense held up. UB's defense plus Joe Kuda held up. There were a lot of times where it felt like they wouldn't. The midfield did not look good against Canisius. As is typical, Canisius played a little bit more physical. Canisius was better in the air for aerial balls. I was a little surprised to see how much stronger Canisius was on loose balls in the midfield. And I was a little surprised at how sloppy UB was. And I think part of that is the turf may have been faster than UB's used to at UB Stadium. I'm going to hold on to that as a pet theory. I asked Sujimoto on Twitter if that was the case, and he never got back to me. But really a lopsided game against UB. They had a handful of good chances. They had a number of chances in the first 10 minutes, and then at about minute 30 to the end of the first half, that could have been a goal. Maybe if they score the first goal, it goes very differently. But whenever it seemed like they'd spend 5 minutes working up and building more momentum, Canisius would come back and have 5-6 minutes of much better chances. It was a tough game to watch. I don't know what you want to talk about it.
Getting your point about kind of UB being a little bit sloppy and not really carrying any momentum through. They only had 2 shots on goal. Thankfully, one of them actually went in goal. Yeah. And Canisius had 5, and Canisius outshot UB 18-11.
It really felt more like 5. I wonder if some of the dives that Kuda made just weren't going to be goals, but it felt like so much more than 5. I would have guessed he had 9 saves.
Either way, yeah. It was that, and it seemed, from what you had described on Twitter and in our conversations, with things starting to get physical, it seemed like it was starting to get to UB towards the end, where Cicerone got his yellow card in the first period, or in the first half, which... Yep.
That was, Cicerone has a mouth, and I totally believe that he was giving it. But the fact that there were 3 plays in 60 seconds, any of which could have been a penalty kick, and the end result that we got was a yellow card for UB and no penalty kick. I think that the first one on Doney was not. I think the second one on Cicerone, I wouldn't have been too upset. I was surprised it wasn't called, but I wasn't too upset. But the third one, I posted a GIF of it on Twitter. And maybe I'll bring up a screen share. No, it's not going to work. The frame rate will be so poor on this. I posted a GIF of it on Twitter. Cicerone gets the ball in the box, is in the process of literally taking the ball off the goalie's foot, and a Canisius defender comes up from behind him and bumps him in the back and knocks him to the ground. And the end result of that was Cicerone got a yellow. So that was frustrating. I I think, John, where you're going was UB's 4 yellow cards in the second half, which were surprising me. At least one of them, I think 2 were for dissent and backtalk. I honestly don't remember seeing any of the plays that turned into yellow cards, and I don't care to watch the replay of that game again. Frustrating because UB definitely had games last year where they were hurt by players sitting out games on yellow card suspensions. I can't remember who it was. We were missing somebody for the MAC final against Akron.
That was Doney, wasn't it?
I can't remember if we were missing Doney for the semifinal or for the final. I think we were missing somebody for both, and I think they were different people, as they were.
I know Doney was one of those two.
He absolutely was. I was frustrated by this game in many ways. I thought UB played sloppy. I thought UB let Canisius dictate the pace and the effort. I am continually frustrated by Dermot McCrane. Is that his name? The Canisius coach. Dermot Mick. I've got it right here, if it loads. He's a good coach. He's brought Canisius, turned in a good program. He does good things. Dermot McGrain. Yeah, I was close. But they're a physical team. They get away with a lot, or at least they have in UB's games. And I don't think the ref was necessarily biased. I think UB got their fair share. I should say fair share, but they got a good number of free kicks. But there's no doubt that the balance of the calls went against UB, and there's no doubt in my mind that Canisius was more of the aggressor than UB was. So that was frustrating to watch. And again, I think any one of those 3 plays quickly in the first half turns into a penalty kick, and Cicerone gets it. You've got a very, very different game. UB got away with the win as well. Anyway, it wasn't until the 70th minute where I really thought that Canisius' chances were very, very scary. They had one midway through the second half that a guy couldn't connect on a header. And that would have been a really pretty goal. It would have been a tough breakdown for UB, but it didn't happen. But they had a few between like 71 and 77 that were really good. I watched the first half and thought that UB was physically the faster team, and I thought that they'd wear the Griffins down, and they did not. I was very impressed with Steven Stryker, John. I was very impressed with him against Damon as well. He's always had this knack, but I feel like there's been a step forward this year, this knack to be in the play. Whatever the play is, he's got a knack to be in it. He and Cicerone probably 3 times in the first 10 minutes nearly made it 1-0. And I was really pleased when he came back on for Culver in the 62nd or 63rd minute. I've always been a big fan of Stryker. I've been a big fan since his sophomore year, and I just think there's been a step forward this year, which was good to see.
Yeah, in the Damon game, maybe it wasn't the Damon game, maybe it was the last exhibition. I think it was in the last exhibition. Yeah, it was in the last exhibition game. Stryker came, Doney went down in the first half with I don't know if he tweaked his back or something. He ended up coming back into the game, but Stryker came in and played up in Doney's spot at the point, and I actually really enjoyed Stryker being up front with Cicerone, working in that more of attacking role. Obviously, when he's in the midfield, he plays further up than some of the other midfielders do, which is fine. It's good either way. He really needs to be on the field no matter what. And speaking of Stryker, I asked Coach Riddle after the Damon game about the offense and what he kind of expects and kind of what his what he's looking for in the offense. And he said, Russell getting the goals is great, Ricard getting the goals and the assists is great. But he said you still yet to see Steven Stryker or Scott Doney score a goal or even get a point. And those are 2 big names that figure to factor in pretty heavily and hopefully will kind of take some of that scoring load off of Cicerone's shoulders going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was glad to hear that, because that says that Riddle has confidence in Striker's ability to get there and do that. And like I said, I've been high on Striker since the beginning of MAC play in his sophomore year. And there were times last year where I wondered if Riddle had the confidence in him to use him. I felt like he could have subbed in earlier, played more minutes when he subbed in than he got last year. And then he was a big factor in both games against Akron. And so I'm glad that he seems to have gotten a spot up there. He really impressed today. Today was one of those days where he didn't get quite as many minutes as I thought he would, but he did get the start, and I was pleased to see that. Really, I don't want to stay too much on men's soccer for much longer because we're already more than a third of the way through. But really felt like a game from 2014. The midfield wasn't in sync. UB relied just on booting the ball down the field when they could and seemed to be hoping for one player to make a great play to spring the offense. They were, loose balls never seemed to fall to their feet. They were beat in the air a lot. Part of that's Canisius' style. But it did not feel, I'm completely writing off the Damon game. It did not feel like the team that we watched in the exhibitions. So I'm really eager to see what they do on Friday against Stony Brook. Friday at 10 a.m. Hooray. I guess I'm just going to watch it from work. I think that's what we're going to do. I'll just put it on the background and pretend it's music. Last year, they needed a late goal from Hunter Walsh to equalize against Stony Brook, but if you'll remember, they played without Cicerone and without Hansen in that game. So
ostensibly, they should win.
Yeah. My take on the entire non-conference schedule for a UB is going to be, if this team is as good as they want to be, they need to win this game. That was my take on Canisius. I said rivalry games make everything funny. Canisius could be pretty good this year. But UB should be much better than they were last year. And UB played Akron to 1-goal games twice last year. And if they believe they've got an even better shot of beating Akron this year, which granted they were lopsided 1-goal games, but if UB wants to be the team it has sights on being in Cicerone and Cramarassa's senior year, they need to win these games. They need to beat Stony Brook. They need to get that win out of Canisius. A 0-0 tie against Canisius would have been fine. It would have been a draw. They would have gone to penalties to see where the Big Four shield would go. But these are the types of games that UB just needs to find a way to win. They can't settle for draws like they did in Texas last year. They can't settle for, a late, equalizers to get a draw out of, Northern Illinois or anything like that. They've got to win the games. So that's how I feel about Stony Brook. Stony Brook lost to Hofstra in their season opener 3-1, and they were playing. Who were they playing today? They started at 7, and their live stats weren't working, so they were not helpful to me when I wanted to look it up. But I will look it up, and then we'll move to volleyball. All right, they beat Seton Hall 2-0. I don't know anything about Seton Hall, but we played them 1-1 last year without Hansen and without Cicerone. So we'll see what we get Friday morning before football starts Friday evening. We won't talk about that next Sunday. That happens on a different show. Volleyball, John, the other team that started their season. Tough weekend for people who are interested in following volleyball. Even though the tournament was hosted by Virginia, there was no video, which happens. It's not what I'd like, but it happens. And at least in UB's opening game against Virginia, the live stats weren't working. And so we just relied on a tweet every couple of points from UVA. So you don't know very much other than box score watching. Then the second game yesterday morning against Northwestern was very lopsided. Northwestern was very clearly the class of the tournament. And UB really wasn't competitive in any of the sets, except for maybe the third. They were tied at 15-15 before losing. Then you had the George Washington match where UB jumped out to a 2-0 lead in sets before the break. And then George Washington absolutely spanked them in the third set, hitting 474 to UB's negative hitting percentage. And then close fourth set went GW's way, and then George Washington opened the fifth set on a 9-0 run. And when the fifth set only goes to 15 points, it's really hard to win when you spot the opponent 9 points. I don't have a lot to say about the first two matches. I think we saw whenever you have a 3-set match, there's not a lot of stats that you can put together. Rachel Sanks played well against Virginia. Neither Rachel Sanks nor Felicia Watkins played well against Northwestern. Felicia Watkins had 17 kills against George Washington. That was great. The thing that really struck me in that GW match is after the break, after, what I'll call halftime, but it's not. Theoretically, you get some sort of like halftime adjustments like things happening at that time. After that point, UB hit .014 in the final 3 sets of the match. They had, the hitting percentages are aggregate of kills versus errors over your total attacks. And basically, UB had, let's say, 29 kills in the last 3 sets, and they had 28 errors on 70 swings. And so it worked out to 1/70. And they lost the fourth set by 3 points. Hit just a little better than they would have come out with their first one of the year. They also had 14 service errors in the match against George Washington, which is no good at all. It's really hard to win matches if you have 14 service errors. And so those to me are, in a tough weekend to really figure out what was going on. Honestly, I'm getting there, but I haven't been following volleyball to the point where I can build a whole story out of the box score. Paige comes in the comments and says, well, here's what you can see about the back row here and there and there. I don't see that yet without him pointing out. I think we generally are expecting for more out of our libero and our defensive specialists in the way of digs, giving the offense more chances to get points. I will turn it over to you.
I think it's well known that my knowledge of the X's and O's of volleyball isn't that great. But the George Washington game really reminded me of the Ole Miss match from last season.
Yeah.
When UB jumped out to a 2-set lead and then proceeded to drop the following 3 sets. I didn't really do too much of a side-by-side of the box score for both of those, but if I had to hazard a guess, I'd say they're probably pretty similar.
Yeah. I do think Ole Miss was a better team last year than George Washington is this year, which is maybe not what you want to hear.
Not really, but
Ole Miss at the time was, I think, 13-1 or something like that.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, it was something. It was something along the lines of that. I remember following along with that match side class then. But now this year I don't.
John, we're going to go off topic for a minute. John is so wistful that he's not in college anymore. And I'm trying to explain to him that he has money now.
Yeah, I know. It's every time I get nostalgic, I just have to pull up my bank account on my phone and look at it.
College was fun, but you have money now. And you still get to go to basketball and football games for free because the other Bull Run writers aren't in the area, so you get the press pass. I guess presumably you want to do something with your life other than UB sports and your time. But
you would presume that, but you would be incorrect.
I mean, I'm the one who stayed at home on a Saturday night watching sports and writing sports. Anyway, yeah, volleyball, I think I'm much more interested in this coming weekend. They're in Pittsburgh, Duquesne, Robert Morris, and St. Francis of PA. Pennsylvania is a kind of a little bit of a volleyball hotbed, but those schools are schools that are more on an athletic department profile level, schools that are more on UB's radar, more peer schools. I think they're all generally, I'd classify them as a little bit smaller than UB, maybe not Duquesne. Depends on how I feel on the day. But they're schools that probably have similar amounts of resources. They might have better volleyball programs, but compared to UVA and Northwestern, I think it's a leveler playing field if you were to take random athlete and just what they bring to the table. So I think this coming weekend for volleyball is one where I'm really interested in. I think Felicia Watkins has to play well. It's kind of like Megan Lipsky last year, where it's like you're there, you can have up and down games, but if we're going to win, we need you to have double-digit kills.
Mm-hmm.
I very pleasantly surprised with Christina Kurson. I'll just wait until I have video to watch her more, but she started, I think, all 3 matches. I think she certainly played in every set. She's on a front row, back row sub with Maddie Torbeck, whereas I think Cassie Shadow and Amber Hatchett are playing all the way around. But Kirsten seems to be playing, getting more time than Wernette, which I was very high on Wernette. I still am. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of her. I'm looking forward to see video of Scout McLaren. She seems to do what she can with what she's got. Not 100% yet. She had at least one of the sets on Saturday ended on a ball handling error, whether that's a bad set or a double hit or what. And she's had some service errors, but she's also, I believe she had 4 aces against George Washington, which is a lot. I think last year we were excited if Megan Lynn and Tessa Oyama had 2 aces. So it's tough. We'll see. They're on the road forever. They've only got 8 home matches, so I'm not quite sure what we'll ever get for video for volleyball this year. But I think this weekend is against competition that, at least on an institutional level, without knowing anything about the individual volleyball programs, is perhaps more of a fair opponent for the Bulls. And so we'll see what we get out of this weekend.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I can't remember if we played Robert Moore. I feel like we played Robert Morris last year.
I thought that too, and I went and looked the other night, and I could not find them. Maybe I looked too quickly. We played them in basketball 2 years ago. It was the game before Shannon Evans had a triple-double against Binghamton. But it just feels like a school that we would have played in volleyball. And I don't think we have in the last 3 years.
Yeah, you would be correct.
Yeah,
at least we didn't play them last year.
Yeah.
Let's see, year before.
I'm glad that you thought that too, because I specifically went and looked it up.
Yeah, they just seemed like a team that like one of those teams that we would have played at some point.
They're close by. I think we played them in women's basketball and got Cassie Ausler revenge.
Yes, I want to say.
Maybe I'm just thinking because Cassie Ausler started there.
The only other thing I can remember is, never mind. Let's move on before we get.
I'm
talking
not
about Olympic sports.
Compared to my normal enthusiasm, I'm not particularly excited to talk about women's soccer right now. But they're a UB Olympic sport, and this is the Olympic sports rundown. I shouldn't say it that way. They had 2 results this weekend. Thursday, they had a 3-1 win over Bonaventure. That was really a 3-0 win in disguise. I mean, the goal counts. It's a real goal, but basically 3-0 because it came on the last play of the game on a set piece from Bonaventure after UB had really controlled the game. And out of that, John, we were pretty happy. We were feeling like, all right, the offense is here. Not only did we get our first goal of the season, but we got our first 3. Catrona scored 2, looked every bit as dangerous as we hoped she would be last year. And then we got a little bit more into the weekend, and there was a video from the post game of Coach Burke. Really, some of the harshest words I've ever heard him say. John,
Yeah, and
you go ahead. You saw it first, so you can.
Yeah, in the 3 years, I don't think I've heard him say anything quite like that publicly on any of the recap videos or anything. But I mean, I was in the stands for the Bonaventure game, and it seemed to me like UB did a great job. They kept the pressure up on Bonaventure. They were in the attacking third for much of the game.
Mhm.
Bonaventure really didn't have many good chances until their set piece at the end that they scored the goal on, which they, if those of you watching and or listening, go to Matt's piece on the goal-by-goal analysis, you can kind of see that a UB defender was out of place and could have potentially broken up.
Yeah. And if I'm reading her number right, she's someone who I don't think, at least this year, would normally be on the field in a more important situation.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to say it that way, but it's the type of thing that I'm not that worked up about having given up the goal. She lost the person she was covering and mistimed her jump. And on set pieces, you either need to disrupt your person from getting clean contact with the ball, or you need to disrupt the ball from getting clean contact with someone's head. And she left her person, and then she missed the ball, and it is what it is. But yeah, John, the one thing that I said to you from the end of the game that I was able to watch after I got out of quiet rehearsal was that the defense was not as sharp as they had been against Hofstra and West Virginia. They were good, but they were not as sharp. And I said, they're fine. They got it covered, but there were a few more giveaways, a few more lapses in attention. And I said, not great. Gets the job done against Bonaventure, absolutely. No trouble. It was nice to see the goals spread out a bit. Benatti got that, earned her penalty kick at the 31st minute. Then Catrona scored twice in about 6 minutes, about 30 minutes later. And it was just good. It was a consistent offensive showing, I thought. We kind of danced around Burke's words, but Burke basically said something effective. It got it done today, but this team needs to work harder than they did today. They need to play a full 90. He just sounded upset with the effort levels, which, like you said, John, they felt consistent through the game to an observer. You and I kind of picked back through the play-by-play and found some players who were subbed out pretty early in each half, considering how much of time they usually play. Talked about players who had some very impressive stretches and then kind of weren't much of a factor for other parts of the game. And I don't think we need to talk too much about them because, we're already guessing in two directions as it is. But Burke was very clear about that. In a game, they won 3-1 against a team that beat them 2-0 last year. Granted, a fluky 2-0, but a team that beat them 2-0 last year. They had a 4-goal swing. It's the first time they've beaten Bonaventure by 2 goals since 2006, something like that. And, it was the first win of the season. 3 goals is not a bad way to finally get your offense going. And he was clear, that he was unhappy with something. And so we go into Sunday today, road game at Binghamton. Binghamton, through 3 games, had scored 2 goals and given up 2 goals. They'd only given up 10 shots on goal total. And they weren't a good team last year. They certainly don't seem like a good team this year, but they played UB to a 1-1 tie. I've talked for a while. So
before getting to the actual game, I attempted to watch the stream of the game, and it was completely unwatchable, so I wasn't able to actually see any of the actual footage. I had to resort to following the live stats. The stream was basically just choppy audio and video the whole entire time, and I couldn't make heads or tails of what was going on. But this is a Binghamton team that UB beat 3-0 last season. Mm-hmm. Granted, they may have improved, but
they lost their 3 top goal scorers. They're a team that only scored 10 goals all season last year, and their 3 top goal scorers combined for 6 of them. But I believe that they improved. I do believe their defense improved. I believe their defense all came back and returned. And limiting shots on net is what they are good at, apparently, early in the season. But UB had, what was it, John, 25 shots?
Yeah, UB outshot Binghamton 25-9, but Binghamton got 5 of their 9 shots on goal. UB only got 9 of their 25 shots on goal.
And I was texting someone at the game, and they told me, we had multiple shots that hit the frame, and UB just couldn't pounce on the loose ball. I asked if Binghamton, Chris Catrona scored 10 minutes in the game. I wish we had video of it because it sounds like it was a great feed on a through ball from Selena Carrero, which I didn't think of Chris Catrona as that fast last year, but it's turning out that she might be the fastest player on the team.
Yes,
which is not a bad thing. I guess every team has to have a fastest player, and it's got to be someone. But I'm glad that it's Catrona.
Yeah, on her second goal against Bonaventure, you could really see that, where she stole the ball, zigged and zagged through about 3 defenders, and then buried the goal.
Yeah.
She is very, very fast in person.
Yeah, I have only seen her in person, I guess 4 times now, but I've totally forgotten what I watched last year in Philadelphia. But she scored 10 minutes in. Awesome. Wonderful. Then Binghamton equalized the game at 30 minutes in on a corner kick. Set pieces are a dangerous thing. If not for a set piece today, UB probably would have tied Canisius 0-0 on the men's side. They're a dangerous thing. If we don't have video, I don't really know what happened on a corner kick. You can do everything right on a corner kick and still give up a goal. So it is what it is. But from that point, I was texting someone at the game and I said, did Binghamton park the bus? Are they just trying to play for the tie? And I was told, no, they're pressuring, they're working to get shots and stuff. So Binghamton was working and giving UB room to work, and UB was still owning possession and winning shots. And they couldn't put anything on net. They went from the 38th minute until the 83rd minute without getting a shot on net. And in that time, they took 10 shots that went high or wide or hit the framework. Twice, Julia Bonatti hit the framework. And in that stretch, they also had 6 corner kicks. And John, you looked this up for me. I think on 12 corner kicks on the day, they only generated 3 shots, and none of them were on target.
Yeah. And you mentioned how dangerous set pieces are. Buffalo had 12 corner kicks. Binghamton had 1, and their 1 corner kick generated a goal.
Yep. And part of that's just soccer. That's what happens. But extremely frustrating. I think UB was much more dangerous in the last 7 or 8 minutes. I think in the last 7 minutes, they got 8 shots on goal and forced 4 saves. So, hooray. Way to go. Maybe not 4 saves, maybe 3.
But it seemed like a little too late.
Yeah, the Binghamton write-up, excuse me, I thought I was going to sneeze. The Binghamton write-up really praised their goalie in those last 10 minutes and said that she made several very strong or very acrobatic saves. If the replay video from America East is better than what you saw at live, I'll go and watch it, and I'll be the judge for myself. I'm willing to bet that at least one of the saves she made was good. And it is what it is. I think the overtimes were relatively even. UB got 2 more shots out of overtime. I don't think Binghamton got 1. Is what it is. The tone coming out of Burke was different today, though, and that's kind of where I want to get to before we start to wrap up in a couple minutes. Burke said, Binghamton played well. They played gritty. They forced us to work hard. And the real key line that I heard from Burke, that I read from Burke, I should say, is that this team needs to learn how to win ugly. The men's team won an ugly game today, and the women's team drew an ugly game. And, it's a result. I'll take a result. I'm happy with that. And I don't know if I'd be that much happier if they had scored a late goal, but I would say they've got a killer instinct and they know how to, find a goal. But something was different today that Burke wasn't like, this is another disappointing, this is another lackluster. They generated 25 shots. It seemed from the live stats like they had possession almost 60, if not more % of the time. It just is.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see the Brown. I believe they're playing Brown. Yes, it's Brown
Brown.
first. At the Brown game on Thursday, if this is becoming a trend, if I don't want to say it's a must-win, but if this is a team that we thought could potentially be top 3, top 4 in the MAC, I think that's a game that if they win it, it'll give us a good sign as that they're trending upwards. If they lose it, then maybe we'll have to sit back and watch a little bit more before we go making any really bold predictions. I mean, I have confidence that they're gonna do fine no matter what. But just tying Binghamton, to me, it was a disappointment.
I mean, yeah, anything but a win over other SUNY schools is a disappointment to me. And I don't mean to point fingers or anything like that, but that's just how I feel. Brown beat Rhode Island today 3-0. It didn't. Oh, actually, they did. They got 14 shots to Brown's 7. We'll see. We'll see what we get out of them. I don't really know that much about them. I am more concerned about the offense, as I think, as long as Burke's with us, we'll always be more concerned about the offense than the defense. I'm hoping to see multiple goals against Brown. I think I might be happier with a 2-2 tie than a 1-0 win against Brown. We'll see. I hesitate to say ultimatums. I hesitate to say it's a must-win, but it certainly feels like, 2 games a trend? I don't know. If not for Burke, we'd be pretty happy with Bonaventure. And I'm still pretty happy with Bonaventure, but he saw something, and now this was not the best result. And we'll see what we get out of Brown. I've said this a couple times, but the 2 hardest games on the schedule are out of the way. Syracuse is still on the schedule, but from what I've heard, they played in the spring and UB ran them off the field. That's what I've heard. So I'm looking at this schedule and I'm looking at my lips saying, let's hit MAC play on a huge run. And then they play a game like today, and maybe they play great today. I don't know. But I'm kind of like, this is not how you build a huge run. It was kind of like last year when it was like, all right, we lost our first game, but we beat Drexel. And then we lost 2-0 to Bonaventure. And then we beat Canisius. And then we needed Rebecca Bramble to save our butts versus Niagara. And then we beat Binghamton. And then we beat Syracuse. And then we played amazing against West Virginia. And then we lost to Ohio at UB Stadium. And last year we made it to the MAC semi. And we were 1 goal away from the MAC final against Akron, who had pulled a number of upsets to get there. And so it still went all right. But I'm looking at the schedule and I'm thinking, build the momentum, just win until the MAC and build the momentum. The team's good enough to do it. And, whatever happened today, even if it was nothing but bad luck, even if Binghamton's goalie really made every save she made was otherworldly, I'm still like, damn, that's only a draw. Even if UB played well enough to beat West Virginia and just everything that could go wrong went wrong, I'm still just like crap. Like the momentum's not there. So that's how I'm feeling going into Brown.
Honestly, the more I think about it now, the 1-1 tie against Binghamton this year, to me, this is our night. This is the Niagara game from last season. Like that's
exactly what I feel.
So hopefully they do the same thing, then come out and beat Brown 3-0.
Yeah. No Nadia Johnson here anymore, but oh well. Also, hopefully Laura Dougal starts against Brown. Cassie Betancourt is a great goalie, and I'm very happy to have her. But she's not the UB career leader in shutouts, nor the UB single season record holder in wins and goals against average. So we just don't know anything about Dougal. She has not looked upset or that gimpy. I saw her walking around. I saw the team after the West Virginia game when she left at halftime. She didn't look upset. and part of that maybe she's a calmer person, but she didn't leave the bench after the half. We'll just see.
Yeah, and
Betancourt's a fine goalie, and our defense is good enough to help her out. But Dougal's the number one.
Yeah, and Dougal was warming up before the Bonaventure game. She was moving around, jogging. So,
okay.
If anything, I think it may be a precautionary thing.
Yep.
Maybe just to give her a little bit of rest to, if she got nicked or had a few bumps and bruises, that it'd be better to give her a couple of games rest rather than risking something more serious happening, which I'm perfectly okay with.
And I mean, in 2014 on the men's side, Cam Hogg got 5 games, and Walid Kassis was the very clear number one. I think if you give me the whole season and say Cassie Betancourt's going to start 4 games and play in another, I'd be like, okay, that's fine. Mm-hmm. But now that it's happening, I'm like, where's Dougal? Like, what's going on with Dougal? We'll see. I don't have a beat on Brown. I'm just not sure what 3-0 against Rhode Island means. I haven't looked at their I'll look it up in time for the preview on Thursday morning. But we've kind of got to wrap this up. So we'll see. We'll have more information in written form later this week on Brown. But 2 results from women's soccer. Plenty solid. Feels a little crummy just because it really seems like this is a schedule that's built for UB to hit MAC play with a ton of momentum and a ton of confidence. And no matter how it happened, no matter, what went on, what's within UB's control or outside UB's control, a 1-1 draw against Binghamton does not build that momentum. So that's a bit of a bummer. That's what's happened this week. We mentioned volleyball has Robert Morris, St. Francis, and Duquesne next weekend. Men's soccer is Stony Brook on
Friday before the football game.
On Friday before the football game. And then who do they got on Sunday? Incarnate Word. So Incarnate Word is playing at Canisius in Buffalo, and that's 11 a.m. on Sunday. That is a terribly inconvenient time for me.
And women's soccer is playing Navy at 1:30 on Sunday.
And women's soccer is playing Navy at 1:30 on Sunday. Less inconvenient for me. Still crummy. Okay. And then, John, you've helped me out a bit, and cross country starts their season this weekend in New York, probably facing a bunch of New York schools.
Yeah, they're heading down to Colgate once again for the Harry Lang invite. Who Harry Lang is, I don't know. Last year there were 8 schools there, pretty much all from New York. It was UB, Syracuse, Albany, Binghamton, Colgate, Utica College, Bucknell, and I think there was one other one in there, if I didn't already say 8. Anyway, I went based off of the schools from last year, and as far as I can tell so far, the schools that will be there are UB, Syracuse, Albany, Binghamton, and Colgate. Okay. It was Navy was the last school last year. Navy will not be competing there this year. And it wouldn't be an Olympic rundown without me mentioning wrestling at some point. Nolan Terrence will be competing this week. I believe it's Wednesday at the Junior World Championships in France. He will be representing Team Canada, and he'll be wrestling at 120 kilograms, which is the 285 analog in the metric weight class system. So it'll be pretty exciting to see how he does there. He won the Greco-Roman National Championship in the Canada, the Canadian Nationals. So it'll be interesting to see how he does there.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, John, does he unseat gunning at all this year in any fit of your dreams? Me on the spot there. I'm sorry about that.
No, I don't think so. But I've seen crazier things happen. So it's not necessarily out of the realm of possibility. But if I was a betting man, I would say Gunning is still the starter.
I mean, I love having, exciting backups because they challenge your starters. They make it happen. I'm looking on Colgate's site for ideally a press release that talks about the Harry Lang invite and then says who he is. Their trails, like the course is called the Harry Lang Cross Country Trails and Course. But that's all I've got. I've got nothing else for history and who Harry Lang was. But it sounds like he's got something to do with the city of Hamilton, New York. Is it a Hamilton? It might be a Hamlet. I don't know. I don't have time.
I mean, I Googled Harry Lang, and one of the first results was a former midget professional wrestler.
I don't think that's him.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah. I think it's time to sign off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Today, thank goodness for David Enstrom. I've called him Daniel all show, and his name is David. Oh my goodness. Maybe I'll edit that in post. We'll see what I manage. His name is David. I should make sure that I didn't type Daniel in any of the recap stuff. Thank goodness for him. Kind of saved what was not a bad, but a disappointing Sunday. Especially considering the UB football alumni and how that all went down today. We won't talk about that. Just a bummer of a Sunday. So UB got the win over Canisius. That's the big one. We'll be back next week, Sunday. We're John McWhinney and Matt Gritzmacher talking all UB's Olympic sports. We'll have another sport to add to the ledger next week in men's and women's cross country. Have a great week.